I'm Pam Dyson with the St. Louis Center for Play Therapy Training. I'm here today with a play therapy tip. Quite often, especially when I first start working with a child, a lot of the activities and interventions that I utilize are put in place for me to assess the child and start using what I gather during part of my assessment process for treatment planning purposes. One strategy that I like to use with children frequently is to bring in a circular tray of sand, circle representing their world, and then I will ask them to select an object from the assortment of miniatures that I have here in my office. It can be an animal, it can be a person, it can be any kind of an object, something that they would select that would represent themselves. And let's say, for example, this frequently happens with children, especially boys, they might pick the tiger to represent themselves. And I'll ask them to put it right in the center of the tray, because that represents the center of their world, and everything rotates and revolves around them. And then I will ask them to select objects, miniatures, that represent other people, animals as well, that are important to them. And so a child might say, well, let's see, this kind of looks like my mom. So I'll say, you know, when you pick other people and objects to put into your world, put the people who are the closest to you close to who you are, and then put those who maybe you don't feel quite as close to, put them a little farther away from you. So this might represent mom, and so the child would put that item in as well. And then it would continue, and they would go on, selecting those people. Children might select family members, neighbors, cousins, teachers, coaches. If they're active in a church or synagogue, they might select a youth worker, a pastor, priest, rabbi, anyone who serves in that capacity as well. Scout leaders, I've seen those represented too. And so they would just put all of those important people into their world. Sometimes children put some of them outside of the container, representing that maybe they don't feel too close to that person at all. So I would ask who all those were. We would talk about them. If some of them were ones that were quite a distance from them, asking perhaps why they don't feel so close to those people, or what it is about some people that are close to them that they feel so connected to. So it's kind of projective as well. Once we were finished with it, with their permission, I would photograph it, and then we would have a record of what their world looks like. So it's kind of interesting to see what they select. I'm usually not too directive. I won't suggest to a child, well, pick something that represents your mom. I'll say, you know, your family or those closest to you. I don't want to lead them. They might leave someone who is significant to them. They might omit them or leave them out. That might be sort of an insight for me as to how they perceive that person as well. So giving some directive, but letting them go that direction themselves and where they want to go with that. If you don't have a big circular tray like this, you could certainly use something smaller like a paper plate. I like the blue color because it can represent water, it can represent sky. Some plastic picnic plates. You could do a smaller individual one. That would certainly limit the size of the objects that they could use. So if you had a smaller selection that they could choose from, that would certainly be able to be contained in a plate this size. How about a Frisbee? I need sometimes in the summertime in the dollar stores or the dollar bin at like Target. That could be used as well. And with this little edge on here, same way with on here, it's probably a good container for sand. We might not spill sand so easily. I've used this individually. I've used it with a family. I've used it in groups. And if you don't have sand, or it's not accessible, or this isn't large enough, you could even purchase an inexpensive hula hoop, put it on the floor, put it on the table, and everyone in the group or in the family could select objects that represent themselves, put them into their world, and then you could talk about what they selected, who they're close to, maybe who they're not so close to. So a good projective technique, also a good assessment tool. And it's usually pretty non-threatening for children. They kind of enjoy doing it as well. So if you like this tip and you want more, you can go to stlplaytherapy.com And we have lots of trainings that we're offering listed there that you can find out more information about if you'd like to come to one of our play therapy trainings that are approved clock hours by the Association for Play Therapy. We also have a YouTube channel. We have pin boards on Pinterest. We're on Facebook. If you go to stlplaytherapy.com, you can find links to all of those. So find me on Facebook, leave a comment, ask a question. Perhaps you're going to utilize this strategy and you can offer some insights into maybe a different way that you adapted it. I think these techniques are great and they're fun, but they're not a one-size-fits-all. So take the general concept, the general idea, and adapt it to fit the population that you're working with. Thanks.